if anyone's out
So
there,
far,
let
so
us
good.
um first YouTube live, and then I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna invite a guest, and it's gonna be Ariane Hunter, who wrote this
Yay!
incredible book.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad to be here with you. This is just amazing, and yeah, I adore you.
I
So
like the feeling is so mutual, and I should have looked this up, Ariane. I don't know if you remember the timeline, but I think about us meeting in Brooklyn,
that's right.
going to that coffee shop, you taking my picture for project she went for her dreams with my
You're
son
bringing me back.
with my sign. Yes, totally. When was that? You probably know
Oh my
better.
god, I know. Talking, I'm remembering so vividly.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense. I I know. I know. Well, and such is your journey and the experiences that you've had, the evolution that has happened in the past decade plus. I just have to say, even though your book, Dreaming on Purpose, which everyone needs to get, subtitle is a manifesto for Black women on taking the leap, building your dreams, and being your own boss. I mean, I could co-sign everything that's in here, and was also like, this mic drop, this inspiration. Think of this. I would need to do this exercise. Blah blah blah. Even though I'm not a Black woman, I got so much from this, and I can't wait. I read the whole book in like two sittings,
Oh my
basically.
god.
The first sitting, I was just like, oh, let me just start Ariane's book. I'm gonna, soon. And then like 2+ hours went by, and I like
Mhm.
had to stop, and then I finished it the next day. Um,
Oh,
it
I
is
love that.
so much clarity, so much guidance, so much help, so much vulnerability.
Mm, yeah.
So thank you. Thank you
Thank
for,
you. Thank you.
of course, of course.
That's I'm so glad to just see it in your hands and that it resonates with you. And that's been my deepest just aspiration for writing this book is that it would reach the hearts of those that it was meant to reach and I do believe that this book has been kind of it's been in the making for the last 4 years post pre-pandemic, and so the timing in which it is now in the world and kind of where we are in society it's just like so much happening. It's very exciting, but it's also like, whoa, okay.
Up,
So
up.
my deepest wish is that this book can be kind of a grounding for us as we kind of think through what's next and what's important to us, particularly within our careers and the work that we feel called to do, but also in our personal lives. This is an
Mm,
awakening, this is an awareness time for all of us to really lean in and confront what's in front of us. So yeah.
yeah. Yes. And this post COVID world, and I always put that in quotes because we know COVID is still all around us, but that here too, and not going back. Let's not go back to the way we used to. Not back to that work ethic, all of that. So the dreaming piece, which is obviously a really key element of the book, um, you talk about dreaming as that act of resistance, particularly for women of color. Um, and I love that the rest is resistance movement has really seemed to like have a platform and catch on. People are talking about it, but I was like, ooh, dreaming as
Mm.
resistance. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. And I love that you brought up the Nap Ministry and
Uh-huh.
Trisha Hersey's work. I have two of her books behind me on my library. It's just an absolute must read. But
Wonder.
you're right. It's just one of the best. And so yeah, so when I think about dreaming, it's often been, this idea that it seemed very far-fetched or separated from us, right? Particularly as women of
Mhm,
color, we're kind of denied that spaciousness, that imagination, right? We're kind of, in a system where we're accustomed to thriving and kind of just
mhm,
getting by, and so navigating microaggressions, racism in the workplace, and it's just it's stifling. It's stifling for us, and for women of color, and thinking about, what does it look like to carve a new way forward. We have to slow down long enough,
mhm,
so that we can imagine and we can dream, what it is that we want, not just for ourselves but for the collective and for the culture, right? So examining the societal expectations and the systems of oppression that we live in, and you walk outside of your door and you're just in it every single day. It's like, Audre Lorde speaks about self-love as an act of preservation, right?
yeah,
So I like to think about our ability to dream, to tap
mhm,
into our psyche, to tap into our heart, to listen, to slow down long enough. That in and of itself is a radical act.
mhm,
So we have to claim that.
mhm,
It's sort of to really return back home to self, ask those deeper questions. What are my dreams? What are my needs? And oftentimes that's, a difficult question to answer,
mhm,
right? It seems simple enough, but, to ask yourself, what do I need? What is it in this moment? Sometimes we need just that space, to really answer that clearly. So that invitation is sort of that opening to have that dialogue.
okay. So talk to the people specifically, Ariane, who are like, I, every time I think of that, I get a question mark. Things are fuzzy. I always say that dreaming is a muscle, and I know that as adults, we rarely allow ourselves to flex it. We stick to
Right.
the logical, practical things, and we don't
Yes.
allow that dreaming space. So, how can that person that just feels, I wish I knew what I wanted. I wish I could dream. I'm coming up empty. What
Yeah.
what do you say to them to help them start?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You said it perfectly. Just that muscle, right? It really is something that lies dormant until we realize it's there, until we can activate it and really plug into it, right? And
Yeah.
so, as I mentioning earlier, there's so much noise and distractions around us, so we have to really acknowledge and identify that, it really does require that pushback, that
Uh-huh.
pushing that space for us to dream, right? So it's, the first step I would say is just to clear away the clutter, right? There's so many distractions. There's so many, hi, welcome. I love
I want
it.
them to hear
Um,
everything about this conversation, by the way. I'm like, yes, come and listen. Listen. No, we're not you.
Listen, I love it. And the Cheetos, got it. I love it. Bring the snacks.
Yes, bring this now.
No, but
Stop, stop, it's too loud. Okay. Sorry, Area. Oh my god,
oh
are
no,
you
you're
just
fine.
kidding me? Get out of here.
I love it.
Apologies.
No, we're all good. No, and so it's really kind of examining that, it's we do live in an environment with a lot of distractions, a lot of noise. So the first step would be to really clear away that noise, right? Look to your life, spaces within your work, within your business, within your career.
Yes. Mm,
Dream. So we're being encouraged to do that every day, right?
mm,
So dreaming really is, again, going back to that act of resistance, putting that time on your calendar and that telling you that your dreams matter, right? If you're creating space to center yourself, which in a lot of times we aren't used to being the center even of our own world, right? And really pushing back and understanding what our needs are, and taking ownership of that, right? So
Yeah,
it really is that pause. Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, I just want to take a break real quick because I saw Alandria said she can't hear anything, although I think she heard something earlier. And I see we have a few friends who are here. Can anyone just write in the chat if you could hear? Because I could hear you,
Yeah, I
Ariane.
can hear you
I know you
too.
can hear
Maybe
me. So
yeah,
I'm good.
I'm seeing her
Now.
comment
Okay, good.
here.
And
Okay, good.
good.
Yay.
And this
Whew.
should be recorded and up on YouTube when we're done.
Yeah.
That's like, the whole point. Yes. Oh, and here's Abigail. It was going in and out.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha. Okay.
Good. You can both hear us now, but it went out for a chunk of time. Sorry. Okay.
Oh no.
Um, hopefully it'll be on the recording. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed,
Um,
technology on our side.
yes, technology, but I really, there is just that introspection, and I know, like, hearing, you didn't say this directly, but just those baby steps, right? It's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
A little
And
one.
so,
Mhm.
if you could just take 10 minutes here and 10 minutes here and 5 minutes here, it doesn't have to be this big overhaul. um but it
Yeah.
was really clear in your book that you have been so intentional in making time for your business and your wellness, your 2-hour financial Friday
Yeah.
mornings. I was like, every week, 2 hours for financial Friday is amazing. And then I noticed too, you wrote about just like getting up earlier to do some of your wellness
Mhm.
practices, especially when your mentor, who sounds amazing, was just like, yeah, no, you need to, delegate this and you need to focus on this and you need to, put this away. Um,
Yeah.
for the person who is like, I don't have time, I don't have energy, I don't have space, I can't do those things other than we'll take those baby steps, we'll take that time, little bite, 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 bite. Is there anything that you could suggest or recommend for that? Hmm.
Wanted but it's really about understanding that, that voice that tells you that you don't have time to focus and to prioritize something that's literally, on your heart, right? Something that calls to you, that's an interest, that's a desire. Again, it's sort of like that voice of doubt is probably louder, that we tune into, and so we start to believe that we don't have enough time. So we, you know, um, carry out our lives as if we don't have time, and we keep putting other things in front of what's truly, truly important, right? And so sometimes that can be a form of self-sabotage, right? It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
got to tend to so and so, and I can do this, I have to do all of this. And so we put up the needs of others, in front of our own, right? So that becomes a practice. And that's something that, probably that we've been carrying around for a really long time. So really, interrupting that pattern. And when you catch yourself saying, I don't have enough time, right? So it's really about tuning into the fact that we do have choice, right? So you may not have time today to do it, but I'm working on, right? So just switching in your brain, I'm working on dedicated time, for me to work on my business, or for me to work on this dream that I have within me, right? So really acknowledging you can make that choice, right? It's like, what do you truly want? How much are you willing to make time? And what I do know about us is that if we really want something bad enough and it's really truly important to us, we will find a way, right? So just how you're finding a way to put other people's needs ahead of your own, how can you shift that same, energy and that focus and again, starting small into the things that are important to you as well, which are those dreams that have been always there, right? And just tuning
Yeah.
into that.
Okay, just, more with the mic drops. There's so many more mic drops here. Mic drops here. Um, and I love that you pointed out, Ariane, that this is, a business leadership book for Black women. And also, it is, you bring in the holistic self, which is probably why it spoke to me so much too, that it's not all about, the business, logical, practical
Right.
piece. It's about taking care of your body, your mind. I love the chapter in particular about your spiritual practices, your intuition, because if anything, your, and we'll talk about mentorship in a minute too, but I
Mhm.
always feel like, your best mentor is yourself. Your best
Mm.
guide is yourself. And when you get on this roller coaster ride called entrepreneurship and you want to stay in that driver's seat and not go up and down, to it's you have to put those spiritual practices and really tune
Mhm.
in to who
Mhm.
you are and what you want. I'm curious if
Yeah.
your practices have changed since you decided to be a business owner 10 plus years ago. And if they have, how have they changed?
Yeah, I love that. I just want to say, first that, when it comes to your spirituality and just kind of how you connect to, your higher purpose, your higher calling, God, love, however, you define that within your life, it really is personal to you. I remember when I first started some of the earlier days of my business. And I was kind of, navigating this direction anyway. I got out of a really toxic corporate situation that just was really, really not good for my mental health. And so when I left that environment, I couldn't put the words, I couldn't put, the language or to really understand that, what I was feeling, but um, mental health was wrecked and I really needed to heal, and so the where that took me at the time was through yoga, and I know for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us sometimes we're called into that direction. And for me, it wasn't about getting into better shape or being flexible or all those things. It,
Uh-huh.
it really was just about how can I start to inhabit
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
always been just sort of my go-to. So whether that's a brainstorming session and you can do that on your own, you can also do it in community as well. Writing down your ideas, getting everything that's in your head onto paper. Journaling was very healing, very therapeutic for me as well. For those listening in, I know, let me know if you know the book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. That was one of the first books I kind of gravitated to. Yep, you're nodding. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just
Okay.
such a pivotal, yeah, force and just kind of again connecting with my creativity. So Julia talks about morning pages, and so
Uh-huh.
I really took that to heart. And
Yeah.
every day
Yeah.
for years really developed a practice around it. First thing in the morning, just go. to your journal, go right to the page, even if you don't feel like it. And so that was just, again, another form of just connecting with your spirit because it takes you out of your head and just really deeply connects you to that voice in your heart and allowing that space and that freedom to really listen, right? And so when you really find those things that resonate for you,
Mhm.
it really is star, so to your earlier question, it hasn't changed much, from day one to now. I've layered in more tools
Uh,
as well. That's just sort of my go-tos. Spending time in nature,
yeah.
going for a walk around the block. It really doesn't have to be anything complicated and grandiose. Sometimes it's really about finding the simple.
Yes, please. Amazing. Amazing. Well, and
Yes,
Bill
keep it simple.
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I think there was like a slight
Oh, no, that's okay. I think there's a little delay
little
going there, but yeah, simplicity.
yes, I love this. Well, and building on that too, we all know on this journey of entrepreneurship, on the roller coaster ride, we will deal with rejection, we will deal with failure, we will deal with haters. And I do think that, um, you know,
Yeah,
even those who haven't experienced it yet because they're aspiring entrepreneurs, that fear of those things keep keep them hidden and keep
yeah.
them from
Mhm,
even starting and putting themselves out there. Um,
mhm.
how do you suggest we just, pick ourselves up again when that comes and when that happens? How
Yeah.
have you done it for yourself? And how have you asked for another blessing
Yeah.
to do that?
I just wanna say that, it's been it's been a journey, just not to overuse that word, but it really is that relationship that you build with yourself over time and
Mhm.
just really identifying, that voice of fear, um, being okay with it and not being liked, or handling criticism and rejection. I'm a recovering people pleaser,
Me
I
too.
just want to make sure that, yeah, right.
Love
It's
to meet
like,
you. Yes, we're in the same meeting. Yes.
seriously. So you get it. Yeah. It's that was
Mhm.
my kryptonite to feel like, oh my God, I'm being rejected or some aspect of me, so that really was a part of the healing that I had to undergo, that becoming an entrepreneur sort of presented to me. I do think that when you make these decisions to become an entrepreneur or to start your own business or to go for a promotion, it doesn't have to be a business. It could be anything that just really feels scary. All of your fears come to the surface. And the good thing about that is that it's fears that you need to look at to heal
Mhm.
anyway, right?
Mhm.
So, dealing with rejection, oh my gosh, the number of no's that I would hear,
Yes.
just yeah, when you're especially in those earlier days, they still happen. It's okay. It's not
Uh-huh.
gonna go away.
Uh-huh. That
It's
is
not
true.
like, oh, okay, all of those no's are gonna turn into no's. Yes, you'll still hear those no's, but you'll be better able to not personalize them. I think that's
Mhm.
something that we often do is that we take it personally and think that this person is rejecting my entire, my business, my like even putting this book out. I was like, oh my
Uh-huh.
God, this book is gonna
My
be in the
baby.
world.
My
Um
baby.
exactly. Like people are gonna be reading it? What? So yeah, it's always gonna be a part of the picture. And it's a good indicator that you're actually going towards something that's worth going for because your fears will come to the surface, right? So we like
Yes.
that. It's okay. Bring it on.
Yes.
But it is about learning to be in partnership with those fears. It's like I
Yeah.
hear you. I talk about in the book, public speaking was not my foray at all. going, on the stage, your heart starts to thump, and I know that's a common fear for a lot of us. And I talk about a story where I had to present in front of hundreds of people, and just like the fear about all of that coming up to the surface. But it sort of taught me again, it's just to confront that fear. It's like, okay, I see you, I hear
Yeah.
you. We're
Yes.
going to be okay. What do you need right now? Right. I
Yeah.
think it's in the beginning, early days for me, I would push away that fear. I'm like, no, I don't want to hear from you. You're distracting me. No, I got to do this. We got to, and I would just steamroll over that part of me
Yeah.
that just is just fearful. So if you think about, a little child, who is upset and is just not doing okay, you're not just going to push that child away. You're not going to just not or ignore, I hope you wouldn't, right? So it's
Yeah.
showing yourself that same care and attention when it
Yes.
comes to that part of you that's just needing to be heard.
Okay, I'm gonna read that little passage about the fearful child because it hit me
Yeah.
in such a way with such tenderness that I want everyone to hear your words about this. And yes, please ask questions. Those in
Yeah.
the audience, I'm here. We're here live, so you could ask your questions and we could have conversations in the chat. So please, please, please don't be shy. We should have time for anything you share. Okay, this is page 50 for when you have the book. If you saw a child standing alone, crying and afraid, would you just walk past and ignore them? I hope not. You would stop and ask, what's the matter? What is your fear? What do you need right now? And then you'd listen. Imagine if we did that for ourselves, if we actually listened to our fear with compassion so that we might know how to care for ourselves.
Mm.
This,
Yes.
this. Listen to our fear with compassion so we might know how to care for ourselves. It was just I love
Mm.
that image, and I will be using that person. Um, and that compassion piece is so true. Okay,
Hi.
say
Hi,
hi to
hi.
Ramona. Okay, now Ramona has a friend. So
Hi.
okay, bye.
Yay.
Um, this
They're
is
so fun.
this is what happens when we do things outside of office hours, outside of school hours. No freaking knows.
We're rolling with
Oh,
it.
well, we're rolling with it, and just so you know, that just makes it a really shifted things for me too, in terms of those fearful moments, or like I like to call them the vampire voices that are there to suck all the good
Yeah.
stuff out of you. And I also love the
Mhm.
exercise that you have here. And I don't know why I was surprised to see an exercise or three at the end of every chapter. Um, but when I come across it at the end of every chapter, I was like, oh, right, okay, more things to dive into and things to do. And I didn't mark it down. I don't know if it was that chapter or another one. Um, but I loved the piece of, yeah, write down what you're afraid of, and then write down,
Mhm,
like, what would you do if that thing actually happened? And
mhm.
I just went,
Right.
oh, yeah, just like the comfort that is there in speaking it aloud and calling it out and saying, yeah, there's kind of like
Right.
a plan. I don't know if this is my Capricorn self speaking, but like, there's a plan. I like to know, oh, I could handle this. Oh, I could see it and I can handle this. um okay, Alandria said, I haven't read the book yet, so apologies if you said it already, but Ariane, have you studied parts work in internal family systems? I heard you mention parts a few times, so I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah. So So yes, this is very similar to family systems and understanding those different parts of ourselves that
Mm,
lives, within us, and the different ones, the different needs that each of these parts has and wants to be heard around. So really part of, my that part of me that feels not good enough, or that part of me that feels like, is a perfectionist, right? These are all parts that were, that we needed, at a certain point in our lives. They protected us, they held us down, right?
yeah.
It's like we can come to rely on them, and those parts did get us to where we are now, right? So it's about really re-examining to see if that is a part that you want to bring forward in your next chapter and who you're becoming, right? And it doesn't mean you have to discard that part away, but becomes maybe it becomes something different. Maybe it starts to serve you in a
Yeah.
different way, right? So having that dialogue with those components will really just sort of feed that information to you and know what you need to do next.
I feel like everyone, if you don't already have a notebook or a journal, and this is funny because I kind of got away from journaling, and I read your book, and then I was like, I need a new journal. I need a fresh journal. And I worked on this for a long time
Yeah.
this weekend. And I just feel like if
Mm.
this were for anyone who's listening, and anyone who reads a book, like just get ready. Just keep diving. We're going to keep diving. Um, and that is a big part of being your own boss. And it is a big part of taking the leap and being an entrepreneur. There is
That's
this
right.
self development and
Mm.
self actualization that you can't help but occur if you're doing it right. Um, and shifting over to that mentorship piece that Alandria mentioned. And I love this because I had this as a talking point too. Because when I think about you, usually the word that comes up is mentorship. Probably because we launched your mentorship business together with 90-day business launch.
That's right.
And I honestly feel like before I met you and worked with you on that, mentorship to me just felt like a very kind of nebulous thing. I'm just like, well, what
Mhm.
exactly is that? And how does it work? And how do I find a mentor? And who can become my mentor? And so just, hearing now from you, like, what is mentorship actually, and why is it so important, especially for Black women? And how can you find the right mentor and make that happen, as Alandria says, without spending $30,000 on a coaching program?
That's right, that's right.
Uh-huh.
Are hearing me okay. But yeah, I think when it comes to mentorship, I hadn't even really, you know, connected with that word, until well into my adulthood, well into my career. And so I was very sort of singularly, focused on just like, I have to pull myself up by my bootstraps.
Mhm.
That's like a really problematic term that often gets thrown around. And it's critical to understand that as women of color, we don't always have the same access to resources, to networks as others. And this can mean make
Mhm.
army of angels, who exist in your circle that's going to lift you up. And I want to really say, just really highlight that when it comes to a mentoring relationship. We often think about it, as kind of a one-way street. But I do think it's about what you can receive,
Mhm.
not just about what you can gain. It's about what you can give, being open to learning and being, contributing into that relationship. We always have something of value that, can help someone,
Mhm.
even if they have, tens of, decades of experience ahead of you, right? But this is an opportunity to, work and right? So building that community, right? Building that community, just don't you don't need to have, just one mentor. It can be many mentors in just different aspects of your life,
Mhm.
right? So there's different ways to engage in mentorship. I had my mentor that I worked with for years and continue to work with her. She's become a sister to me
Yeah.
now. She's really opened up so much in terms of opportunity access, and it really just came from me walking up to her and saying had not seen a lot of Black women who were doing the things that she was doing. And so I wanted to learn. I connected with her right away. And I think that's important for us, especially as women of color, to connect with those who have shared experiences that understand and that are relevant. What are some of the challenges, the unique challenges that we go through, and just really having conversations around that as well. So that was super important to me when I was, connecting with a mentor and just really building up, a community of, women that I wanted to have in my circle.
Mm.
So I really was just bold. Sometimes you got to shoot your shot
Yeah.
and make and really think about who's that person that you would just love to learn from, who's that person that you think that you can contribute and bring value to. How can you forge a relationship with that person?
Mm.
And oftentimes that person is just when you engage with a mentor, it's really about that opportunity for other people to help you. And
Mm.
I if ever for whatever reason. So you'd be surprised if you reach out to people and just introduce yourself and what you're working on, how receptive.
Like your mom said, you don't ask, you don't get. You mentioned that in the book a few times, and I love that quote.
Yeah. She's
Smart
always reminding
lady.
me.
Smart lady. Well, and I love the comments that Alangria is leaving. She says, "I'm dreaming more lately, but I get stuck and scared at how I'll pull them off in isolation." And so, if you
Yeah.
really do feel like you haven't found that community yet, you're not part of that collective, or maybe a mentor, like you think, who could it be, and you really come up blank. Where do you
Mhm.
start in that instance?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have to, get ourselves out of, our routine.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to, look at, what's some co-working spaces in your area, where are some networking groups that you might find your people. It does take a little bit of time, sometimes all events or, communities aren't made equal, you just really have to find your flavor of people that are, that align with your values and are kind of thinking of things in a similar way. So I do think that there's a little bit of just, getting yourself out there that needs to
Uh-huh.
happen. And it could be in person or virtually. But you can, incorporate this as part of your practice, put, half an hour on your calendar, to reach out to folks on LinkedIn. I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn, being active on LinkedIn, building up your connections. This is the first go-to spot that you really want to spend some time, and seeing who's in your community. You can put in some search terms and keywords within the search bar and link on LinkedIn related to your industry or related to roles or titles that you're interested in exploring. And then, just spend some time there, 30 minutes or so, getting to know some folks on LinkedIn and then reaching out to them, right? So expanding your connections that way. This is something that I did quite a bit, and just again, getting myself in front of people as much as possible. So it's really about also getting through that hump
Yeah.
of I'm
Yeah.
bothering this person or they're not going to want to engage me. So again, look at this as a self-awareness practice of I see you, I hear you, I understand. You got to point to you if you have to. To really seal it in there. But yeah, acknowledge that fear. It definitely will come up. It definitely did for me. Acknowledge it, but you can still take one step towards that, right? What would happen, right? What
Yeah.
would happen if you reach out to this person? The worst thing is that they didn't respond. But if you didn't reach out, you would never know, right? So
Yeah.
you have nothing to lose.
Exactly. And I do have to stress that in Ariane's book, I mean, I love that you talked about um, you joining Toastmasters to work on public speaking,
Mhm.
and you going to these networking groups just as an introvert, and just like, no one wants to go here, no one wants to do this, but like, here's how, you build that muscle, and you show up. And I think you mentioned at one point, like, okay, then don't do it alone, bring a buddy. But
Right.
make sure you don't just sit with your buddy the whole time. I love that. I think you put in that tip. uh Leave with like two people. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. So it's not about going into that room and And I better talk. Oh yeah, yeah, I know it's getting so dark. It's not about going into the room and oh my gosh, I better talk to every single person that's in here. I better leave with 30 cards. No, let's have two conversations with people, and that's gonna lead to those relationships and opportunities.
That's right. That's right. Building it intentionally.
Yes, yes, and there's just more.
Building it intentionally.
Oh, go ahead, go
Mhm.
ahead.
Sorry, there's a delay. There's a delay. No, it's, for my fellow introverts listening to this, or I'm definitely in that camp. Using your introversion as a superpower, right? Again, it's so great at being intentional, being thoughtful, right? We hate small talk. We're really going to want to talk about the important things, right? And so that is your superpower, in a world where people are just like talking just to hear themselves talk and they're talking at you. They're not really listening, right? We've all been in those conversations where it's just like we can't wait to get away because this person is
Yes,
just not listening, right?
yes,
So, like you were saying, Michelle, like don't aim for quantity here. You don't have to meet 100 people at an event. That's just overwhelming. You're going to feel extremely drained from that, right?
mm-hmm,
Challenge
hmm,
yourself with two people that you can meet and let that be enough.
yeah,
You are enough. So
yes,
again, it's like going back to this society where we're just so bent on like the fast pacedness and how many, and just like
yeah,
it doesn't always work in every scenario, right? So really
yes.
pushing back on that.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I just want to give a last call for anyone who is with us live who has a comment or a question that they want to add. Now is the time because I have one last question. Even though I mean, I could talk to you
I
all night.
know,
I
so
could talk to you
good.
all night. There is something in every chapter of this book that I underline, that I highlighted, that I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do this exercise. Oh, I want to unpack this quote. Oh, I want, here's this inspirational piece. Um, but I would love to just end our time today with that one piece of guidance that you would give Black aspiring female entrepreneurs that you wouldn't give anyone else. What's the one thing
Yeah.
they need to hear? Even though that might be really hard to do. If it's a few things, you could say a few things, but pops up.
Tell you a million tips to, start your business or go after your dreams, right? And great, but
Yeah.
my started is that dreaming is your birthright.
Mm,
It is your birthright, and if you've ever questioned if this silly thing would even work or if it's worth going after, remind yourself that it is your birthright to dream. We have not always had the space to dream. The women and generations who have come before us, it's we have the freedom and the privilege to dream in ways that they have not.
yes.
Okay. And so we really have to acknowledge and remind ourselves every day, if you have to know that dreaming is your birthright. Dreaming does, your dreams matter. Okay. So really embracing that fact, that belief is that first step. And I promise you, things it will clear up in terms of your next steps or what steps to take. I know we always get caught up on the how, right?
Mm,
But just know that you don't have to do it alone. Build your community, build it before you need it, right? Surround yourself with that cheerleading squad that's going to lift your dreams up and not poke holes in it. Surround yourself with people who are honest, who care for you, and who will lift you up because you will need it, on the ups and downs of really building this out. Don't be afraid to seek those people. You're not meant to do it, right. So taking that first step, owning those dreams, surround yourself with the people that will lift you up, right, and keep going.
I knew that was where we would need to end. That's beautiful. Thank you for that wisdom and inspiration. Kim asked, where can we get the book? And if I knew how to type in here, and thank you, Ariane, again, for being my guinea pig for the YouTube live. And
This is fun. I love it.
but
Anytime.
here's Ariane's name and how you spell it. If you go to arianehunter.com/dreaming on purpose, you'll see the book and all the links to
Mhm.
order. If you weren't here when I said this up top, I am not the intended audience for this book. I'm not Black. I'm not an aspiring entrepreneur. This helped me immensely and really cracked me open and inspired me and
Mm.
had me clarify things in a lot of ways. So don't, if this isn't exactly speaking to you, it doesn't matter, right? Get the book anyway because it's going to. Um, you're going to leave with a lot of aha moments and things that are going to help you on your path. So thank you for writing this book and for spending time with us today, Ariane.
Thank you. This was such a fun, absolute pleasure. I'm so glad to share this space with you and to have this conversation. So thank you for having me and thank you for everyone who joined.
Oh, thank you so much. I continue to adore you. And I'm sending great big hugs and a lot of love and congrats on the book launch.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Bye.